When they're not treating children in this ward of Hadassah Hospital on Mount Scopus in Jerusalem, Doctors David Zangin and Abdul Salem Abu Libde collaborate on cutting-edge research, helping to solve some of the many mysteries of pediatric endocrinology. That's an area of medicine which deals with glands and hormones in children. But their work together symbolizes something much deeper. Dr. Zangin is an observant Israeli Jew who for many years was a senior medical officer in the army. Dr. Salem Abu Libde is a Muslim Palestinian who studied his profession in Syria, resides in East Jerusalem, and also works for hospitals in Ramallah and elsewhere in the Palestinian Authority. Both doctors said that at Hadassah, the commitment to healing makes race or creed irrelevant.
It's something most people simply take for granted, the ability to walk. David Semach had his second stroke 3 years ago, losing movement on his right side. This new Israeli invention called Smart Step is giving him the tools to walk again.
You put an inner sole in the shoe, you attach a unit around their ankle with minimal weight. Person can walk naturally, doesn't have any sensations inside the foot. They walk and the device just measures how much weight they put on their foot and where the weight is and the pattern of their walking. And the visual biofeedback is that the patient can see through the computer software how they're putting weight on their foot and where they're putting the weight through their foot. And using audio biofeedback, there is a ringing tone that comes about when the person puts the right amount of weight through their foot during walking.
Even if you don't live in Israel, chances are you have something that was made here. The chip in your cellular phone, your computer's processor. Yes, probably made here.
The overall export right now is about $16 billion of the high-tech, out of about $30 billion of overall industrial export. We want this industry to be export of this industry to double up to in about 10 years' time.
The Israeli high-tech industry is considered one of the most advanced in the world, and its products stand at the forefront of communication and information technology.
What we basically have is a unit that works on a mobile phone. You can install it into any automatic gate. Upon people calling it up, it recognizes their caller ID and allows them access to the gate.
Some of the gadgets, gizmos, and technologies that Israelis have developed include Bluetooth, the wireless method of exchanging information between devices, the firewall, which protects computers and websites from hackers, and voice over IP, which is basically phone calls over the net. Companies here are hoping to highlight the latest in telecommunications technology, including this, high-definition video conferencing. Em fled an area in Sudan bloodied by genocide in search of safety and a better life. First, she made her way to Egypt, but soon realized she couldn't stay there.
You know, it was really dangerous. You don't know even you have maybe if Egyptian police, they will put you in jail, you know, maybe they will kill you even.
So Em crossed the border illegally into Israel. She was 2 months pregnant with a daughter by her side. They wandered through the desert for a day and a half until an IDF patrol picked them up. One of the first calls was to Rita.
There was a woman at the border, Sudanese woman, with a baby, with a child, actually 6 years old. And if we didn't take her in, she would be separated from her child and put into prison.
They did it as only they know how. The occasion was the opening of a conflict resolution center by members of the African Hebrew Israelite community, based on the principles of slain American civil rights leader, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, not in Chicago, USA, but in the development town of Dimona, Israel. The Institute will offer courses, counseling and training in resolving differences within families and between communities, faiths and nations, based on the principles espoused by Dr. King. Guest of honor at the inauguration was President and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Charles Steele.
It was last year, with Palestinian terror on the rampage, that 24-year-old Clara Baylor of Paris, France, made the decision to become an Israeli.
Because I really consider that coming and doing your aliyah is like falling in love, and getting into marriage is for the best and for the worst.
Soon after her arrival here, even before she decided to stay, Clara began volunteering for Magen David Adom.
Since I arrived, a lot of good things have happened to me, and I wanted to contribute to the country.
Twice a week, she shows up at Magen David Adom headquarters in North Tel Aviv to answer calls for help.
You really see miracles. You see life getting back. You see life. You also see death. But, you know, it's part of life.
When she's not volunteering, Clara is in the classroom or hanging out with friends at Tel Aviv University, where she's taking a master's in military and diplomatic history. She says the memory of 100 members of her mother's family murdered in the Holocaust and the climate in France, uncomfortable for Jews, helped shape her decision to live in Israel.
The Arava Desert in southern Israel, which stretches 180 kilometers from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, ranks among the hottest and driest places on the planet. However, not many people know that over the last 12 years, this has become one of the most productive agricultural regions of Israel. 450 families who live in 8 farming villages produce 65% of the country's fresh vegetable export and 12% of its foreign flour sales, amounting to over 70,000 tons of high-quality produce annually. Arava vegetables, which conform to strict international protocols and rank among the best available, can today be found on the shelves of supermarkets in the major capitals of the world.
Children the world over have been learning and honing the ancient martial arts of judo and karate for centuries. There's nothing new about that. However, this group is unique. The participants normally would not assemble together. They represent the sides of the Israel-Arab conflict. A third are Israeli Jews, a third are Israeli Arabs, and the rest are Palestinians. They were brought together by Danny Hakim, a highly decorated master of martial arts who founded the Budo for Peace Association 4 years ago. 25 representatives from 17 countries, ranging from Cameroon in West Africa to Latvia in Eastern Europe, at the end of an intensive 4-week course here in Jerusalem on issues of education in the 21st century. Each participant is a senior member of the pedagogical hierarchy in his or her particular country. The course, which is under the auspices of Mashav, the Center for International Cooperation in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was heartily praised by the graduates.
Yes, firstly, I will take the good experience to learn from in here, also from different other countries, to share the information, share experience with my colleague, my student, and even the government, the leaders about Israel.
The program is held several times a year at the Aharon Ofri Training Center at the Ramat Rachel Hotel in Jerusalem and offers subjects such as early childhood education, teaching science and technology, and community education. Christmas celebrations at the bilingual school in Jerusalem. The ceremony was followed by a Hanukkah candle lighting service. While they are all Israeli citizens, half the pupils at the school are Jewish, the rest Arab, of whom 80% are Muslim and 20% Christian. It's impossible to tell them apart. Classes in this unique school are held either in Arabic or Hebrew. The general rule is the humanities and arts are taught in Hebrew, the sciences in Arabic. Cinema lovers may soon be able to smell a good movie when they see one. At the National Science Museum in Haifa, school children have come to learn about the mechanics of the universe. Unlike a normal theater, the films here are three-dimensional. The images seem to actually jump out of the screen when viewed through special stereoscopic glasses. At the same time, the seats are packed with gadgets designed to provide the audience with a multi-sensory experience, including smell.
The seats that we're sitting on is a smart seats. That means the seat is full of gadgetry. You have personal speakers, a bat effect that gives you an air path back to your nose. We have back ticklers that can move you, bottom ticklers. We have a mouse effect, wind effect, bubbles machine, wind machine. We can reduce the temperature in the room. Some even call it the smell-o-vision because we can demonstrate 120 types of smell in this room.
Most farmers in the developing world live in abject poverty, earning a subsistence wage. But this is a farming community in Israel, which enjoys a relatively high standard of living. In fact, Israel has virtually eliminated rural poverty. And now, a new program shows representatives from countries where subsistence farming is still the norm how they did it.
The experience of development in Israel, particularly rural development, there are lessons which are extremely relevant to developing countries in Asia and Africa, and we want to share our experiences because we think they have the right to enjoy the same kinds of standards of living that we have.
The key to Israel's success in wiping out rural poverty? Joining individual farmers into large-scale cooperatives to help them compete on global markets.
For the last 4 months, Khalil, who comes from the Palestinian town of Jenin, has been here at the Wolfson Medical Center in Israel, waiting. His baby daughter Raya was born with a severe heart condition. Khalil says doctors will operate when Raya has gained enough strength to undergo her life-saving surgery. Raya is one of more than 200 children who will receive free heart surgery thanks to the Save a Child's Heart Foundation this year. This Israeli-based international humanitarian project provides cardiac operations and follow-up care for children from 28 different developing countries. This little boy came with his mother from Iraq. This little girl is from Rwanda. And this baby is from the Palestinian territories.
Far from the city center of El-Fahim, in a modest building tucked away on a side street, a quiet change is taking place in this Israeli Arab community. Local women meet for a 2-hour group therapy session. A young boy gets a psychiatric evaluation. And many others are breaking social taboos and defying tradition to go for counseling here at the Latif Mental Health Clinic.
This is the first clinic that all the staff is Arab speaker. So the kids are understood and the parents are understood. They speak their own language. They understand also, we understand also the culture.
Argentinian-born Israeli psychiatrist Dr. Graciela Carmen runs the Latif Clinic.
It's state-of-the-art Israeli high technology, a rescue elevator that can be deployed in a matter of minutes from a building's rooftop. The cabins are made of a flame and smoke-proof material that enables passengers to reach the ground safely. The apparatus also serves to ferry rescue workers up to previously unreachable floors of a building. You can't even imagine how small it is in here. It's about 2 square meters and 30 people can fit inside, so it's pretty tight. But you actually feel like you're riding down in a normal elevator. And if it's a matter of life and death, it will certainly save your life. The former deputy head of the Mossad, Major General Amiram Levine, says that it's no coincidence the technology was invented by an Israeli company.
Induction Day for the Israeli Defense Forces. It happens 3 times a year. For tens of thousands of young teenagers, it's a defining moment, the transition into military service and all the risks and responsibilities that it entails. Men serve for at least 3 years, women for 21 months. It's the Israeli way of life, part of growing up for the normal and healthy. But what happens to those who don't fit the mold and are a little different? Wheelchair-bound Private Orel said, when she received her call-up papers like every young school graduate, she never believed for one moment that she would soon be in uniform serving her country. Orel says she was at first rejected for duty on physical grounds, but when she later volunteered, the army welcomed her and encouraged her to enlist. Orel today serves at an army base at Sde Boker in the Negev as a Gadna youth cadet commander. Here she is conducting an exercise to promote unit cohesion and trust amongst the recruits, who are all final year high school students on the week-long pre-army cadet program. Orel is a member of a small group of disabled volunteers who are part of the regular staff at this IDF base.
Global warming has led to less rainfall worldwide, contributing to an already serious lack of water in many countries. However, one Israeli company has a solution: creating water out of thin air. It's done by extracting humidity from the air we breathe and condensing it into usable water. The idea is actually thousands of years old and is even mentioned in the Bible. What's new about this technology is that it can now be done more efficiently and on a grander scale. Israel's Bedouin community is one of its most impoverished, but one group is particularly disadvantaged: single Bedouin mothers. Abandoned by their husbands in favor of their other wives, not officially divorced, they aren't eligible for state support. Divorce is not an option because it would mean losing custody of their children according to Islamic law. Their situation appears hopeless. But now, a new project is giving them fresh hope. It's called the Hora Women's Catering Enterprise, and it's giving these single mothers from this Bedouin town in the Negev a new lease on life.